After almost winning 4 major trophies in the 2021-22 season, Liverpool had a very disappointing 2022-23 season. They only managed to win the Community Shield and didn't even finish in the top 4. Their coach, Jurgen Klopp, saw some of his most important players leave, but he also has some new and promising players to work with as he tries to make Liverpool competitive in the Premier League again. But before we begin to see what Liverpool can do this season, you can do something for us, which is to like this video and subscribe. Liverpool's midfield is like the focus of those TV shows where old houses get a big makeover. It's like something that hasn't been changed for a long time suddenly getting a complete new look. Before this summer, Liverpool had only added one new midfielder since 2018, Thiago Alcantara in 2020. But now, it seems like they will be getting at least 3 new midfielders in just a couple of months. They have to do this because they lost some important players like James Milner, Naby Keita, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Jordan Henderson and Fabinho since the end of the last season. A lot of experienced players have left the team, and so far they've brought in Alex McAllister and Dominic Szoboszlai. There were also reports that they're trying to sign Romeo Lavia, a young player from Southampton, but sadly he joined Chelsea. Do you know that Liverpool tried to hijack Chelsea's main target? Keep watching to discover who that was. Liverpool also has some young players of their own, like Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott and Stefan Bajcetic, who are expected to take on more responsibility. The midfield was a big problem. Many people blamed the poor performance in the 2022-23 season on the midfield. They often seem to be running less and getting outplayed, especially in games played away from home. Jurgen Klopp has always wanted his fullbacks to create scoring opportunities and his forwards to score goals. However, the midfielders didn't contribute enough to the team's attacking efforts. In the last Premier League season, Liverpool's midfielders only scored 8 goals, and that includes Fabio Carvalho's 2 goals. He won't be playing for Liverpool next season, as he's on loan at RB Leipzig. It would have been okay if the midfielders were good at keeping possession of the ball and defending, but that wasn't the case either. Among the midfielders who played at least 18 games, only Thiago, 57.7%, won more than half of his challenges against opponents. Thiago was also the only Liverpool midfielder to be in the top 30 for interceptions per game. However, he only played 18 games in the league, which was a problem. In the last season, McAllister, 57.3%, Szoboszlai, 50.9%, and Lavia, 56.2%, each won more than half of their challenges in league matches. McAllister and Szoboszlai together contributed to 26 goals. And the target that Liverpool tried to hijack was Caicedo from Brighton, but sadly this deal failed again. At the end of the last season, the average age of Liverpool's midfielders was 27.6 years old, not counting Arthur Melo, who was on loan and played very little. If they manage to bring in Lavia, the average age of their midfielders at the beginning of the next season will be just 22.4 years old. Thiago is the oldest at 32, and only 2 out of 7 options will be older than 22. This might change if Trent Alexander-Arnold moves to the midfield permanently. However, it's also a good idea to consider getting a more experienced midfielder before the transfer window closes, in addition to Lavia. Klopp needs to decide whether to immediately rely on the new players or give them time to adjust. Players like Thiago, Jones and Elliott might get more playing time early in the season to help with the transition. McAllister has been performing well and looking comfortable in the pre-season matches. Alexander-Arnold used to be one of the best right-backs in the world, but his performance dropped significantly last season, which was concerning for Liverpool. But his decrease in effectiveness when attacking should have caught more attention. In terms of defense, Alexander-Arnold made only 2 mistakes that led to opponents getting shots on goal throughout the whole Premier League season. None of these mistakes resulted in goals. Before the match against Arsenal in early April, only 4 defenders in the Premier League who had played at least 15 games had a better success rate in tackling than his 73.2%. He also managed to avoid opponents dribbling past him often, only 20 times, which was 15 times fewer than Kieran Trippier from Newcastle United. However, numbers can't capture everything, and anyone who's watched Liverpool's games could see that Alexander-Arnold was struggling with his confidence and consistency. But numbers are important to us, so don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. What was even more surprising was that a player who had given 12 assists in the previous season only managed 2 assists in his first 27 league matches in the 2022-23 season. But things changed in April's game against Arsenal when Klopp adjusted his role. Alexander-Arnold started moving into the midfield when Liverpool had the ball. This shift led to positive results. In that match, he helped set up Roberto Firmino for a goal that tied the game against a strong opponent. After that, he managed to provide 7 assists in the next 10 games. He was also the player who touched the ball the most in the league during that period, with 1,073 touches. That was 122 touches more than the next player, Lewis Dunk from Brighton. He also won possession of the ball the second most times, 80 during that period, only behind Manchester United's Casemiro, 89. This suggests that his new role also improved his defensive skills. After making that important change and seeing both the player and the team improve significantly, it's likely that Klopp will stick with it in the upcoming 2023-24 season. This adjustment resulted in Liverpool earning 24 points in the last 10 games, second only to the champions, Manchester City, who earned 25 points. But there were also worries about the defense. Liverpool's defense was not strong last season. They allowed 370 shots on their goal in the Premier League, which is 73 more shots compared to the previous season. This was the highest number in a full season since Klopp became the manager in 2015. They were also letting in high-quality scoring chances, with 27.8% of shots being classified as big chances. This was the highest during Klopp's time at the club. The number of big chances they faced almost doubled from the previous season, going from 53 to 103. This issue might not solely be the fault of the defence. As mentioned, the midfield didn't provide strong protection. And Klopp also talked about how their defensive efforts starting from the front of the field were not as effective, likely because of new players in those areas who were adapting. In terms of defenders, they have players like Joel Matip and Virgil van Dijk, both in their 30s, Joe Gomez, who hasn't been consistently at his best due to injuries, and Ibrahima Konate, who has been good since joining, but has also faced injuries limiting his appearances. If they stick with the new strategy, the right-sided centre-back will need to cover more ground because Alexander-Arnold moves into midfield often. Also, Andy Robertson at left-back had to play more like a left-sided centre-back at times, so getting a more suitable player for that role might be important, especially since Liverpool currently lacks a left-footed centre-back. During pre-season, they continued to concede goals, allowing 4 each in games against Greuther Fürth and Bayern Munich. However, in the Greuther Fürth game, all goals were conceded in the second half when Liverpool had a different defensive lineup. In the match against Bayern Munich, they struggled on the right side of their defense, which Bayern took advantage of in their 4-3 win in Singapore. The club probably needs to bring in at least one defender before the transfer window closes, especially after losing Fabinho, who could play in that position if needed. They wouldn't want to find themselves in a situation like they did in the 2020-21 season. There's not much worry about the forward options. That's an area where Liverpool seems well prepared for the future. Over the last year, Sadio Mane, Divock Origi and Roberto Firmino left, but Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez and Cody Gakpo have been added in the past 3 transfer windows. Along with Mohamed Salah and Diogo Jota, they form one of the strongest attacking groups in Europe. This is arguably the best variety of attackers Klopp has ever had. Previously, he relied mainly on the famous trio of Mane, Firmino and Salah, with players like Origi, Xherdan Shaqiri and Takumi Minamino as backup. Now, he has Salah remaining and 4 other choices who could potentially start any match, each offering something unique. Even though Mane left last summer, Liverpool's creativity didn't really decrease. Only Manchester City created as many big chances, highly promising scoring opportunities, as Liverpool's 103 in the Premier League. However, their problem was finishing those chances. Only 5 teams had a worse conversion rate than Liverpool's 37.6%. Surprisingly, Arsenal scored 2 more big chances than Liverpool, 47 goals compared to Liverpool's 45, even though Arsenal created 30 fewer opportunities in total. Gakpo showed potential after coming from PSV Eindhoven in January, and Jota improved towards the end of the season after recovering from a calf injury. Diaz's season was hampered by a knee injury, but Klopp hopes he can regain the form he had when he scored 14 goals in 18 league games for Porto in the first half of the 2021-22 before joining Liverpool. Similarly, if Núñez can return to the lethal scorer he was, having scored 21 out of 35 big chances, 60% in the Premier Liga in 2021-22, scoring might not be a big problem next season. Núñez has previously taken time to settle into a new club, going from 6 goals in 29 appearances for Benfica to an impressive 26 goals in 28 appearances the following season. Jota had gone a whole year without scoring, until he scored in April 2022. He then finished the season with 7 goals, all in his last 9 games, showing great form towards the end of the campaign. The challenge for Klopp is figuring out which players to use and when. Rotation is likely, with Salah being a consistent starter on the right, if he's not injured. There's a sense that different matches might require different players. Additionally, there's a young and exciting 17-year-old Scottish winger, Ben Doak, who could come off the bench and potentially give Salah some rest occasionally. Salah will be participating in the Africa Cup of Nations in January-February, so players like Doak, Soboslai and Elliott might need to step in during that time. Do you think Liverpool can win the EPL this season? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe.